Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this new episode of Africa Today, where we get you the latest news and events taking place on the African scene. And we will start off with our major top stories and reports. During his meeting with South Korean counterpart Moon Jae-in in Cairo, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said that he discussed opportunities for potential partnership between the Egyptian companies operating in Africa and Korean companies, in addition to promoting investment in Africa. More details in this report.
During his meeting with South Korean counterpart Moon Jae-in in Cairo, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said that he discussed opportunities for potential partnership between the Egyptian companies operating in Africa and Korean companies, in addition to promoting investment in Africa, especially in the field of infrastructure. President el-Sisi added in his speech at a press conference held with President Moon that this cooperation would come in light of the Continental Free Trade Area to significantly increase the flow of investment and trade between the African countries and the international community. South Korean President Moon said in his speech that Egypt enjoys important historical and geographical advantages, adding that the comprehensive partnership between Egypt and South Korea enjoys historic momentum. He added that his country shares experience and exchange policies with Egypt to expand the cooperative partnership and promote sustainable development, stressing the importance of moving forward to concluding trade agreements and expanding the horizons of cooperation in eco-friendly transport and marine and space development. He added that his country would participate in cooperating in dealing with the climate change crisis, particularly amid Egypt's hosting of COP27. He noted that President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has called upon North Korea to peace dialogue with the North neighboring. During his meeting with South Korean counterpart Moon Jae-in in Cairo, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said that he discussed opportunities for potential partnership between the Egyptian companies operating in Africa and Korean companies, in addition to promoting investment in Africa, especially in the field of infrastructure. President el-Sisi added in his speech at a press conference held with President Moon that this cooperation would come in light of the Continental Free Trade Area to significantly increase the flow of investment and trade between the African countries and the international community. South Korean President Moon said in his speech that Egypt enjoys important historical and geographical advantages, adding that the comprehensive partnership between Egypt and South Korea enjoys historic momentum. He added that his country shares experience and exchange policies with Egypt to expand the cooperative partnership and promote sustainable development, stressing the importance of moving forward to concluding trade agreements and expanding the horizons of cooperation in eco-friendly transport and marine and space development. He added that his country would participate in cooperating in dealing with the climate change crisis, particularly amid Egypt's hosting of COP27. He noted that President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has called upon North Korea to peace dialogue with the North neighboring.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and still continuing our special reports. Nabila Makram, Minister of State for Immigration and Egyptian Expatriates Affairs, has met with young Egyptian and African entrepreneurship to discuss ways to foster cooperation with different African states. More details in this report.
Nabila Makram, Minister of State for Immigration and Egyptian Expatriates Affairs, has met with young Egyptian and African entrepreneurs to discuss ways to foster cooperation with African countries. The meeting comes in line with the recommendation of the World Youth Forum, WYF, to establish an Africa Enterprise Business Council that brings together young entrepreneurs. Makram also reviewed her ministry's efforts in communicating with Egyptians abroad, as well as efforts made to attract Egyptian businessmen abroad to invest in Egypt and involve them in presidential initiatives. The minister asserted Egypt's keenness to cooperate with African countries within the presidential vision to cooperate within the African continent economically, commercially, and industrially. In this regard, the minister addressed the Egypt's Voice in Africa initiative, which was launched by the ministry in order to sustain communication with the Egyptian communities in Africa and to make the best use of Egyptian soft powers. Makram stressed that this meeting is very important because it achieves communication between Egyptians abroad and African investors in order to enhance bilateral cooperation. She referred to the recommendation of the WYF to call for the establishment of the Africa Enterprise Council, which brings together young entrepreneurs and businessmen with the aim of providing and linking youth ideas and innovations to financing opportunities.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Still with our special reports, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry participated in the ministerial consultative meeting between the AU Peace and Security Council and the African members of the UNSC. More details.
Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry participated in the ministerial consultative meeting between the AU Peace and Security Council (PSC) and the African members of the UNSC. Shoukry highlighted the importance of African solidarity in facing the continent's crisis, especially terrorism and extremism, calling on the Security Council to support African initiatives in this regard. The top Egyptian diplomat stressed Egypt's belief in the vital role played by regional mechanisms and groupings in achieving security and stability in Africa, as well as the role that the UNSC can play in supporting the security capabilities of these groupings and mechanisms. Egypt is intensifying its efforts to support by every means the capacity building of African institutions in areas affected by terrorism, Shoukry said, including by organizing training courses for the joint forces of the African peacekeeping missions. Shoukry called for the continued coordination between the PSC and the 3 African members of the UNSC to support unified African interests and stances regarding continental security and peace.
Welcome back, and we're joined over the phone by Ambassador Hussein Haridi, former assistant to the foreign minister, who will shed more light on the expected visit by the Algerian president to Egypt. Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador.
Good afternoon, madam.
Ambassador Haridi, Algeria's president visits Egypt on Monday. Would you please shed more light on the significance and the timing of this visit?
Well, this is the first visit by the president of Algeria since many years. And the first meeting between President Sisi and Algerian president, the first meeting had taken place back in June 2014, immediately after President Sisi was sworn in his first term as president of Egypt, on his way to attend a summit for the African Union.
Yes.
He met the late President Bouteflika in a stopover. So the visit of the Algerian president, President Tebboune, to Egypt is very significant, not only in terms of Egyptian-Algerian bilateral relations, but in the context of the larger situation in North Africa and in Sub-Saharan Africa.
Yes.
So I expect the summit, I expect the Egyptian-Algerian summit in Cairo to be very important, very significant, not only for both countries, but for security and stability in North Africa and in the fight against terrorism in Sub-Saharan Africa.
Yes. Ambassador Haridi, in your opinion, how far has bilateral ties between Egypt and Algeria has been developed lately between the two countries?
Well, of course, due to the domestic situation in Algeria, since 2019 and until the elections of President Tebboune as president of Algeria, of course, Algeria was passing through some difficult period. But luckily, now the situation in Algeria has stabilized.
Yes.
And I guess we'll pick up from here and see during the summit between President Sisi and President Tebboune, certainly the question of bilateral relations would be would take precedence. And I guess we have a long history of cooperation with Algeria in various fields, education, telecommunications.
Yes.
So we hope that this Egyptian-Algerian summit would give a boost to cooperation between the two countries in various fields. But most importantly, Madam, the summit would be an occasion for both Algeria and Egypt to coordinate their efforts
Yes.
as far as the situation in Libya is concerned and in the fight against terrorism, not only in the Arab world, in the Middle East and North Africa, but in Africa. So I guess the summit, personally speaking, I think that the summit is very important, not only for the future of bilateral relations between the two countries, but for reasons related to a host of regional questions that impact on the national security of both Egypt and Algeria.
Yes. Sir, what's the strategic importance of Egypt for Algeria?
Well, historically speaking, Madam, Egypt and Algeria were forces for security and stability and progress and Arab solidarity.
Yes.
And we need to re-energize Egyptian-Algerian relations. Algeria is a very influential country, not only in North Africa or in the southern Mediterranean, but throughout Africa. And just to give you an example, some months ago, the Algerian diplomacy started mediating, preliminary mediation between Egypt and Ethiopia, Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia, concerning the differences among the three countries related to the Renaissance Dam.
Yes.
So, Algeria, we stand to gain. We stand to gain. Both countries, as a matter of fact, do stand to gain enormously in more coordination and more cooperation in tackling regional questions and Arab issues.
Right. Well, cooperation, Ambassador Hariri, between Egypt and Algeria is not only limited to the political and economic and commercial aspects. It's also related to cultural ties. How do you think we can further bolster cultural ties between Egypt and Algeria to further bridge the gap between the two countries?
Well, of course, when you speak about culture, arts, culture, literature, if we can increase, or we can start all over again in exchanging cultural programs in the fields that I have just enumerated, that would be great. Of course, cultural exchange programs need resources, need financial resources, and they need planning, long-term planning. And I think that the cultural products, if I may use this term, Algerian cultural products in Egypt are well received by the Egyptian public opinion, as well as, and vice versa. In Algeria, there has always been great appreciation for Egyptian movies, for songs, for Egyptian literature.
Yes.
But we have to do more. I have to admit we have to do more, not only with Algeria, but with many other countries. We have to stress the importance of culture cooperation, because if you think about it, Madam, cultural cooperation provides a very good basis for promoting cooperation among countries in many fields.
Ambassador Hariri, what are the most important topics expected to be tackled during this visit?
Well, my personal expectations, Madam, as far as this point is concerned, are the following. First of all, the first question will be bilateral relations. And I'm sure there will be agreement among the two presidents on the importance of boosting these relations in the next few years in most fields. And the second question will be the situation in Libya and how Egypt and Algeria could coordinate their efforts to put Libya on the right course towards the political transition, a successful democratic transition in Libya. The third question, and it's very important from my personal point of view, is more coordination and cooperation among the intelligence and security services of both countries in fighting terrorism in the Arab world and throughout Africa, with particular emphasis on sub-Saharan Africa.
Yes.
These are and of course, let me just add, if I may, of course, to discuss the agenda of the upcoming Arab Summit that was expected to take place next March, but according to some official sources in the Arab League in Cairo, it has been postponed after the holy months of Ramadan. So I guess the Egyptian-Algerian Summit in Cairo, I guess both presidents would discuss the agenda. And maybe the question of Syria reintegrating the Arab League would be discussed.
Yes. Sir, what are the prospects of cooperation between the two countries in the coming period?
Well, of course, if we are speaking about the political field, I guess cooperation on some urgent matters. I said we discussed Libya, fighting terrorism, supporting Tunisia in transition towards democracy.
Yes.
The Palestinian question, and coordinating more political coordination and cooperation between Egypt and Algeria in Arab affairs.
Right.
And of course, as far as the economic relations, investment, commercial, I guess these are fields that could see more progress in the very near future, madam.
Right. Well, I would like to thank you very much, Ambassador Hussein Haridi, former assistant to the Foreign Minister. Many thanks for your insight. And dear viewers, that brings us to the end of this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more here on Nile TV International.